The MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Fantasy. You can check out their new offer. Play just $5, get harvest bonus funds. Use promo code MLB SGPN. And welcome, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is currently Saturday morning, October 25th, around 11 a.m. Eastern. I'm your host, Scott and Lonte, once again joined by Lonte Smith. Together, we're going to break down Game 2 of the World Series taking place on Saturday night. Lonte, we saw a competitive Game 1 early. In the end, not so much, but overall, a lot of fireworks, a lot of home runs, very high-scoring game. How's it going? How'd you enjoy Game 1?
Pretty good, man. I thought the overs were going to be the play in the game. I didn't have a play on the side, but I like the over. Big inning by Toronto. They hit the ball extremely well, which I think was one of the things that they can hang their hat on. They're going to have to outscore the Dodgers. Obviously, the pitching staff is not, up to par with what the Dodgers have. But yeah, I mean, they had a really good bottom of the seventh or sixth or something.
It was the sixth. They scored 9 runs.
Yeah. Big bottom of the sixth, but I mean, it was really competitive early on, so I enjoyed that. Yeah, I mean, looking forward to Game 2 and the rest of the series. I think it's going to be a long series.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I do want to ask you, though, since we know Toronto finally won some home games, whether it involved Game 6 or Game 7 against Seattle. They also carried over into Game 1 against the Dodgers, of course. I do want to ask you, when it comes down to home field, do you think Toronto officially now has, I'd say, a top 5 home field advantage in the league at this point?
Well, I think it's a lot different in the regular season, obviously, than the postseason. But postseason-wise, I mean, being that they haven't had a ton of success at this level, I think it definitely brings more fans out, brings more energy to the crowd. So yeah, I would say yes right now, and probably going forward if they can continue that type of success. But I mean, the crowd was great. It has been great all playoffs. And I mean, credit to them for the Jays for staying in it and staying locked in. So. Yeah, I think a top 6 is about right.
Yeah, I do want to point out, by the way, that Toronto actually fell behind early in the game. They did trail 2-0. Then you saw the Varsha home run tie the game. Felt like the Dodgers kind of left a bunch of chances, I'd say, just by the wayside because they were up 2-0. Looked like Snell was going to pitch well again, and the Dodgers had a chance to kind of deliver the early death blow, and they didn't. And they let Toronto hang around, something you can't do against a very talented and deep lineup. And Toronto eventually broke through. Varsha tied the game. Then you ended up having Snell falling apart in the 6th inning. Then the Dodgers bullpen came in, and that was just an absolute travesty for them because the bullpen was useless. Pinch-hit grand slam by Barger, a couple home runs as well besides that. But Toronto did what they needed to do. They were able to once again really force the Dodgers starting pitcher out of the game, I'd say relatively early. I know it was in the 6th inning, but we know Snell was also just on cruise control his first couple postseason outings, and he only went 5. Or at least he only got outs in the first 5 innings. So Toronto, we know that this Dodgers bullpen has been their Achilles heel all season, and unlike the Brewers and unlike the Reds, they finally were able to actually force the starting pitcher. Also the Phillies, they were able to force starting pitcher out of the game, get to the bullpen, and then that was really all she wrote because the Dodgers bullpen had nothing and the Blue Jays jumped them. So overall, nice win by Toronto. Once again, if you had the over, it looked like it was going to be a pretty entertaining game early on, and it remained that way because you saw a 9-run inning in the World Series, which is pretty, I'd say, rare to get that many runs in one inning. At the same point, I know I ended up cashing one of my pre-postseason futures with Adam. I had any team at any point in the postseason to score 7+ runs in an inning at -140, which took a long time to get there. We had a couple of teams that scored 6 in a couple innings, but the Blue Jays finally cashed that. So if you ended up tailing that play as well, that got there. Big Juicy was -140, but you know what? A win's a win, and it all counts the same. So Toronto did me a favor by cashing that prop. But once again, Toronto did end up kind of dominating Game 1. Do want to point out, though, before we continue our discussion, that you can check out the NBA Gambling Podcast because, of course, the NBA did start already. Be sure to subscribe to the NBA Gambling Podcast. I know both of us are on that show as well, along with Terrell. for daily picks and podcasts for the NBA. Check it out. Once again, we cover every game Monday through Friday. All the picks are free, and we also do lock and dog picks at the end of the show with an underdog entry if you do want to use underdog as well. But tune into the NBA Gambling Podcast wherever you do get your podcast. So I'm going to ask you, Lonte, just quickly before we segue into the potential thoughts on Game 2. Do you think momentum, from what we've seen this postseason, do you think momentum is actually real? Because it feels like we've seen, especially in the ALCS, when Seattle won the first 2 road games, then Toronto immediately won the next 2 road games. Seattle won Game 5, then Toronto eventually buried them in Game 6, and then came back to win Game 7. Do you believe in momentum in the postseason, or do you think that baseball, it's less important because it just comes down to great pitching and some timely hitting?
Yeah, I think it's pretty meaningless, to be honest. I mean, especially in a World Series, but in the postseason, I don't think that momentum carries. I mean, unless I would say the only caveat to that would be maybe like a lower seed who maybe wins early and can kind of, I guess, parlay that into playing a little bit better. But typically, we don't see it. I mean, we don't see a ton of big upsets in MLB postseason. I mean, a few here and there, but just consistently, we don't really see a ton of variance outside. I mean, the teams that are supposed to win typically win. So I don't buy a bunch into momentum. We've seen it this postseason where teams have looked horrible and then they came out to look really good. So I think it's a game by game basis. Obviously, it's a pitcher's game, so that's going to be the end result, especially in the postseason. Like you said, timely hitting is a part of that as well. And I mean, it's hard to get momentum on the Dodgers, to be honest, because they have just so many good pieces on both sides. And I mean, like you said early on, I thought the game plan for Toronto is pretty simple. Hey, get them to the bullpen because we know that's their weakness. So get them to the bullpen. Let us work the pitch count up on the starter and try to get a little bit more leverage with those bullpen guys. So they executed it perfectly. It was going the Dodgers' way early on because Snell was looking good. They had the lead, and then Toronto just exploded. Which, I mean, it can happen. Toronto's a really good offense. They have been all year. But yeah, so the long way of answering your question. I don't think momentum exists, especially not in the World Series. I don't think so.
Well, I do want to ask you though, because I feel like kind of segueing into Game 2. We'll talk about that in a second. If every reliever you brought in yesterday was so bad for the Dodgers, what exactly is your plan here? Because because look, you're going to need a great start in Game 2, obviously. But I'm trying to think of what your move even is if every reliever you brought in to that 6th inning especially just couldn't get it out. I mean, Toronto was working counts. They walked. They were able to get balls in play, a couple of clutch singles with the bases loaded. Nobody worked at all. You even had a lefty coming into pitch to, once again, Barger, and that backfired because he had a grand slam. I think that was the first ever pinch hit grand slam in World Series history. Yep. I'm just asking because we've had criticisms about this Dodgers bullpen all season. I know that in the postseason you get creative with your starter usage out of the bullpen, but of course it also is a long series. You don't want to burn out all the arms that you have. But if every reliever is going to give you nothing in terms of optimism moving forward, I just wanted to ask you, do you have any thoughts in terms of what Roberts might do with the bullpen, or just pray that the same guys that got buried in Game 1 can bounce back and give you something in Game 2 or onward?
Yeah, I think you got to rely on, those guys just not being that bad, and also relying on your offense to kind of give you some wiggle room to where you can, go to the bullpen up, 2 runs and you'll be fine with giving up, 1 run. But it's always a little bit of pressure alleviated whenever you have the lead. And I think the Dodgers, when they play with a lead, those bullpen guys pitch better. I mean, it's just human nature, knowing that you're coming in a low pressure situation where you have the lead and you have that type of offense versus coming in 2-2. All these type of things are going on as far as Toronto. We know Toronto is not a high K rate, so they're going to put the ball in play. So that's another thing that's kind of discouraging for the bullpen. But
it's not even a high K rate, by the way. They're one of the lowest K rate teams in the entire league.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Like they don't have a high K rate. That's what I mean. Yeah. So, I think that they have to play with the lead. I would think about bringing what's my guy, Sasaki. I would think about bringing him in a little bit earlier. I mean, that would be the only thing I would change. But you just got to count on those guys just being a lot better. On top of your offense being more disciplined. I mean, they weren't horrible. You didn't get a ton from Freeman. I know Ohtani had the
garbage time home run, but a home run's a home run.
Yeah, but he was bad. He had some bad AVs early on, so I just think the offense will be better. The pitching is what it is as far as after the starters, but I would look at bringing maybe Sasaki in a little bit earlier, kind of getting that momentum. I know it's kind of messing with his rhythm a little bit, but again, it's the World Series. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, well, to kind of touch upon that for a second, the last point I'll make about this bullpen, there was a guy who was actually named active to the World Series roster, which kind of shocks some people. I got to bring it up. I know he was terrible in his last outing, but is there a chance Kershaw might pitch because nobody else can actually get an out?
I would, yeah. I mean, I would try it. I would. I mean, what do you got? I mean, you telling me that he's not up to par with the guys that we just saw it. Like they're not. I mean, it's not like a critical thinking question. I mean, it's just pretty simple. Like put him in there, see what he can do. I would seriously consider it. I mean, he just had that one meltdown. Okay, fine.
But that was the last outing. That's the last time he pitched. That's why I'm kind of wondering if you think there's a chance he actually does pitch in the series.
So. Yeah, I think so. I was going to bring that up in game 2, but yeah. I mean, I think so. I think it's a good. I mean, it's got to be a low leverage situation. I wouldn't bring him in a high leverage situation, but low leverage, no outs, nobody on. Pitch count is up a little bit. I would bring him in to see what he can do. I would. Yeah,
and I guess segueing kind of a little bit into game 2 for a second. Assuming Yamamoto pitches okay, let's say he ends up going 5 or 6. Is it like how bold does Roberts get when it turns to actually converting former starters to relievers?
Yeah.
I don't think Glass now can come out of the bullpen because you need him for game 3.
Yeah.
But then again, you really don't want to fall behind 2-0 in the series. So how aggressive do you think Roberts is going to be when it comes to potentially going to a Glass now? Or even a Kershaw, just praying somebody can piggyback off Yamamoto. You think that's actually going to happen?
Yeah, well, it is Dave Roberts we're talking about, so you never really know. But yeah, I would say that your point with Glass now is really good. I think you would stay away from him, but everybody else would be fair game.
Like Shaheen probably, and you throw in maybe a Kershaw.
Yeah, but what I would do is how I perceive the game going is I think Yamamoto is going to go like 7+. I mean, I truly believe that
they need him to.
Yeah, they need him to, number one, and he's shown the ability to do so. And I mean, he's been really good. I mean, even going into the postseason, like he was really good at not even allowing hits. Like he was really good. He had his stuff going, and the offense wasn't playing as well. So I think that he'll go well today. That's one of my handicaps of this game. I think they won't have to lean on the bullpen for high leverage situations because I think Yamamoto will be really good today.
Yeah, I do want to ask you though. Once again, just anything else you want to mention for game 1? We'll officially segue into game 2 in a minute, but anything else you want to add for game 1?
I mean, the Toronto bats, man, just really, I mean, they had 5 guys have 2+ hits. The bottom of their lineup was really good. And that typically hasn't been the case. I mean, timely hitting here and there, but like consistently, like whenever they needed, kind of a rallying point, whenever down in that game, they kept fighting. So I want to credit the bottom of that lineup. I know Bo Bichette was back, so maybe they gave him a little bit of juice. But credit to Toronto. We know what their offense is capable of, but the bottom of their lineup had been a question for me, and I think they delivered last night.
Yeah, I do want to point out last thing is that I feel like the Blue Jays represent the type of offense that you tend to see win World Series. And you might get distracted by the home runs because, of course, right now with analytics in baseball, the team that hits more home runs tends to win. That's not the point. The point is they can actually hit home runs while also constructing very good at-bats and also not striking out. And the fact is Toronto in that 6th inning was that personified because they were able to not only hit a couple of big dagger home runs with guys on base, but they also avoided any strikeouts. They were able to walk, hit some clutch singles. They were a nice balance. And I feel like that kind of sums up exactly why Toronto's been so dangerous all season. Their approach at the plate has been just fantastic because they're able to fight off tough pitches, make pitchers work, and then capitalize on mistakes. And I feel like that kind of gets lost in the shuffle. You're looking at a lot of teams around the league that now become so home run driven. Like, for example, the Yankees. If I know we're both Yankees fans, and of course Toronto smacked the Yankees in the playoffs, but you have some teams that are built on hitting home runs and they ignore the good at bat component associated with the home runs, where you're looking at a team like the Yankees They might hit a home run or two in a game, but they're going to strike out 10, 15 times. Seattle was the same way. They struck out a ton, and that eventually was their undoing in the postseason. Toronto has that nice balance, which is timely hitting with good at-bats, with power swings when needed. And I feel like that's what you should be looking for a potential championship team. So that's kind of the last point I'll make about the overall Toronto approach at the plate. But anyway, moving on to Game 2. Before we get into Game 2 of the World Series, reminder that we are brought to you by our sponsor, HOPENY. Using the bet on football, baseball, basketball, hockey. Also check out the prop builder, second to none. Use crypto for funding your account for getting nice payouts. And a reminder, when you head to MyBookieDG, use the code SGPN for special 100% bet back bonus up to $500 from your customers. Look at the G promo code SGPN. We're also brought to you by Novig, which is the number one prediction market for sports in America. You're getting some great prices using Novig, available in 30 states. Download the app, $50 to spend just $5 if you use our promo code SGPN. Get an extra with Novig, promo code SGPN. Spend $5 and get $50 in bonus funds. Welcome back, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast. Finished going through Game 1's recap. Time to go on into Game 2 of the World Series. So for the pitching matchup in this game, first of all, the Dodgers are about minus 140. Toronto's around plus 122. For the over-under, I see 7.5. Now, Yamamoto is going for the Dodgers, and what you could argue is a must-win game. We'll see. But either way, point is the Dodgers right now are in danger of falling behind 2-0. Gausman is going for Toronto. Now, we said a second ago, Toronto buried the Dodgers, especially the bullpen, in Game 1, en route to an 11-4 win. Gausman, so far in this postseason, has been quite good. He's made 4 outings, or I should say he made 3 starts, and then came out of the bullpen for one of the games, and he gave up no runs in that one. But so far this postseason, he has gone 17-plus innings, and he has allowed a total of 4 earned runs. So Gausman's been solid so far this postseason. Yamamoto has been really, really good in the postseason. He's made 3 postseason starts, and he's gone 19 2/3 innings, a 1.83 ERA. Snell, we know, was in God mode against the Brewers, as he basically had a perfect game through 8 innings, basically. But Yamamoto was not that far behind. He had the complete game performance to start after. Yamamoto has been really good so far this postseason. So I'm going to ask you, I know you mentioned a second ago that Yamamoto is probably going to pitch well, at least according to your prediction, because they need him to, and he might have a long leash, because we know Roberts is definitely not going to trust the bullpen at all in this game. So for the pricing, Dodgers minus 140, Toronto around plus 125. We'll start there. Do you think the prices feel accurate for the Dodgers being minus 140 and for Toronto at home after the offensive explosion being a plus 125 dog?
Yeah, I think the pricing is really good. Just because of the factor that, okay, number one, the sports books are protecting themselves from the Dodgers' money, and also I think it's just a good line because you have 2 good pitchers who are going at it. Gausman is probably a little bit overvalued because of some of the because he pitched against in the postseason. He's went against I want to say those 3 starts. 2 of them were against.
There's 2 against the Yankees, 1 against Seattle, and then he had the bullpen appearance against Seattle.
Yeah. So I mean the Yankees one was really solid. The 2 Yankees one were really solid. I mean I thought that the Yankees kind of let him off the hook a couple of times, but I think Gausman is like in the vicinity of he can be blown up.
My bad. So I flipped it. He had 2 against Seattle, 1 against the Yankees. Sorry.
Okay, yeah. So the thing that I'm looking at, I think he's more prone to getting blown up, and I think that if the pitch count gets high, he loves to throw the splitter. I think the last time I looked, this is older, but the last time that I looked, I thought that the Dodgers lineup was pretty good against splitters, especially at the top of their lineup.
You can argue that's why Savage threw less splitters than normal in the start yesterday.
Exactly. Yeah, I didn't know. I don't have the updated numbers, but I remember tracking that throughout the season. That splitters were one of the pitches that the Dodgers lineup really, really crushed. So yeah, I mean, just pricing wise, I think it's exactly where it should be. I think 140 is a good price for them. The total, I mean, it's probably it's the same. So I would look under because I think that the Dodgers do most of the scoring here. I think we can get like a low-scoring game, but the Dodgers can score. I think maybe like 4-1, 3-1 type of game. But I do think the pricing is right, though.
Okay, so going into the actual game, though, I think the pricing feels a bit expensive to me personally, because if your bullpen's going to be that bad, then I just question how long Yamamoto has to go, unless you shell Gaussman, of course. But if your bullpen's going to be that useless, for lack of a better word, I just wonder how many actual outs Yamamoto has to record for you to feel confident about the Dodgers. Because even in some of the previous series, for example, that Snell start that happened in Game 1 against Milwaukee, I mean, Roberts pulled them. Then the entire bullpen fell apart. They survived and won the game. But we have seen some near implosions by the Dodgers. They had that Phillies game where they almost blew a massive lead. They ended up holding on to win that game as well. We have seen the bullpen struggle for almost the entire postseason. It just hasn't mattered because Snell and Yamamoto were so good that it was irrelevant. But I guess I'm asking you, how many outs from Yamamoto do you need, barring an absolute just implosion by Gaussman? How many outs by Yamamoto do you feel like you need to feel good about a Dodgers money line bet?
21. You gotta have 21, man. I don't. If he can't go 6 and a third, I guess would be what 19. Yeah, it's got to be between 19 and 21. That's what I would feel comfortable with. Unless you're telling me, obviously it's a bunch of what ifs, but if you're telling me that he goes, really high leverage and Kershaw, Sasaki, I feel I maybe 18, but the range 18 to 21. That's what I'm banking on. That's how I handicap the game. That's how I think it's going to play out. I think Yamamoto's going to be great. I think he's going to go, 7, maybe 7 and 2/3, 7 and a third. But I think he's going to want to limit the bullpen. Yamamoto does a good job of not getting his pitch count up. And we know that the Blue Jays are going to swing the bat. So, if you count in double plays, early on, and Yamamoto does a good job of filling the strike zone up. Mm-hmm. He doesn't throw a ton outside the zone or chase stuff. He pitches to, he trusts his power, he trusts his stuff. So I think that his pitch count will be fine. Even if it is a little up there, I think they'll maybe push him back because they absolutely need this game to push his start back, depending on how things go. But yeah, I would expect him to go the distance here if he has to.
Yeah, I do think, though, I'll point out, by the way, the actual head-to-head numbers against these teams. So the Dodgers have seen Gaussman before. Active batters have been okay, about 240 batting average, 300 on base. So not great, not terrible, somewhere in the middle. Yamamoto's not really faced any of these Blue Jays players. Ty France has a plate appearance. IKF has 2, but everybody else has not seen him before. So we'll see what happens. But that is kind of my concern. Because you mentioned that they're going to need a good start from Yamamoto. You're picking somewhere around 18 to 21 outs. Toronto's so good at working counts. I'm just concerned that Toronto might be able to foul off a bunch of good pitches, force some walks. Yamamoto's pitch count gets high. And then at that point, I don't know if you want to throw him out there for 115 pitches. You might not have a choice, but I do wonder if Toronto is so good at constructing solid at-bats that it does force Yamamoto to go under that outs threshold that you view as a requirement for Yamamoto in the start. So, look, I understand why the Dodgers are favored. They were the big series favorite going in. I get that Yamamoto is better than Gaussman. Gaussman's been very good so far in this postseason. He's been consistent up to this point. I think for the price, though, I'll go with the Blue Jays in this game. Even if I do think the Dodgers actually even up the series, I think minus 140 is kind of massive for a number here against Toronto. They've been great at home. They finally woke up at home. We saw that against the Yankees. They were great, won the first 2 games there. We also ended up seeing them lose the first 2 games against Seattle, and then ended up getting some revenge, winning 6 and 7 in Toronto and Game 1 in Toronto. I do think the home field might matter to some degree, at least with the way the Blue Jays feast off the energy from the crowd. I think 140 is too expensive. I think even if the Dodgers end up winning, I think that it should be around minus 125, minus 130 because of how good Toronto's offense can be. And the fact is the Dodgers bullpen is still not very good. Not saying that Toronto's bullpen's great, but really ever since Game 1 and Game 2 against Seattle, the bullpen's been pretty solid, at least in terms of not imploding. I do think that Toronto's bullpen, from a consistency perspective, has been a bit more reliable than the Dodgers lately. So I don't mind the value on Toronto here. I think that the price feels kind of large. The fact is I'm getting plus 125 for a team that has been really good at home all season and for a team that we know can really force the opposing starting pitchers to leave the game early due to, I'd say, bloated pitch counts because of great at-bats. So based on that, I do think Yamamoto has to pitch well and long for the Dodgers to feel good about winning this game. I just don't see that happening. I think either Yamamoto is going to end up having a large pitch count because Toronto works some walks and is able to get some guys on base, or the bullpen's just going to struggle, and we might see a repeat of game one where the starter is kind of up and down, but the bullpen comes in, the game immediately gets out of hand. So I like the value on Toronto personally. I didn't mind the under in this game, which was kind of my compromise with what you said about Yamamoto. Mm-hmm. I know Toronto hits a lot of home runs. Dodgers can do the same. The Dodgers offense, though, against the Brewers, I know that Ohtani, of course, had the 3 home run game in the clincher. The offense hasn't really been that great recently. It's been mostly just good starting pitching, and Milwaukee scoring 4 runs in the entire series combined in every game. So I do think the Dodgers offense has been a bit underwhelming lately, and I do think Yamamoto should go pretty well. I didn't mind the first 5 under in this game, actually, because I do question if the bullpen will be able to hang in there when it comes down to Yamamoto leaving the game, and I don't really want to gamble on avoiding a 9-run inning because we know Toronto has been so good against the Dodgers bullpen so far in the series. I'll go with the first 5 under in this game, which you can find at 4. I do think you're going to see a low-scoring start. I think maybe the game opens up after that. But for a first 5 total, if you want to go for the juiced angle, 4.5 is minus 145. Bit too juicy for me, though. I'll go first 5 under 4 at minus 110 as my total thoughts. I'd go with full game under 2, but the bullpen does concern me. Give me first 5 under 4 instead as my total thoughts. Any thoughts on the total for this game?
Yeah, I like the under. I talked about it. I think that I really think that I'm thinking kind of the opposite of you. I think Gausman is maybe the one that kind of gets blown up a little bit here. So maybe that's where we differ from like the game perspective. So I'm expecting Yamamoto to go out and pitch really well. And I think he'll limit that offense. So if he can work through that count, if he can work through that lineup a few times and have a lower pitch count, I think he'll be fine. He did have some walk. That's one thing that I will bring up that you brought up earlier. He did have some walk issues early on, but then it kind of settled back down to where he wasn't walking as much because I think he was trying to get batters to chase a little bit more, and it just wasn't working. And it's not going to work here against the Blue Jays lineup. So I do worry about that a little bit. So if you can keep those walks to a minimum, because essentially that's what happened last night. They walked 2 guys to get on base, to load the bases for the home run, I think. Or
pretty much, there was a couple walks. There might have been hit by pitch in there, or a couple singles. It was all small ball, and then the home runs happened.
Right, so that kind of turned the game around. So you can really say it was kind of just a bad, obviously just one bad inning. But I think Yamamoto will be fine here. So I like the under. I'm thinking like a 4-1, 4-2 type of game.
Yeah, I do think that at the end of the day, I'm looking at a similar scoreline. I think Toronto might win the game, though, so we might be arguing different sides, but I do see a low-scoring game either way. Think that Toronto is going to get a pretty good start from Gausman, in my opinion, but I do think that Yamamoto will pitch pretty well as well. Hopefully, the Dodgers bullpen, for the sake of the under, doesn't completely implode again, but either way, I do think the first 5 under is the safer way to go about it, avoiding both bullpens entirely. Anyway, I'm moving on to some player props for the game. You have any player props you want to mention? Any guys that kind of jumped off the page to you?
I like Freddie Freeman. He had a horrible game last night. I think he had – obviously we know what Freddie does in the postseason, especially in the World Series. I was on him in game 1. Didn't work out, but I think he bounces back here really well against – I don't know his split. Do you have his splits against Gausman?
I can pull that up right now. I want
to say he did pretty well against Gausman.
Yeah, so Freeman has not been. He's 1 for 9.
Oh, okay, cool. Maybe I'm thinking about somebody else. But yeah, I like Freeman to have a big game tonight. So
yeah, the best numbers, by the way, the Dodgers have. Paz only has 3 plate appearances, so a small sample, but he's 2 for 3. Betts is 16 of 51 with 8 walks, so 3 home runs as well. So Betts has been very good against Gausman, and on top of that, I'm looking at Muncy, who's 6 for 18 with 3 home runs. So both Betts and Muncy have 3 home runs against Gausman.
What about Teoscar? How's he doing?
Teoscar's 3 for 16.
Yeah. Oh, God. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, I like Freddie Freeman to have a big night. On the opposite side, I was thinking about Varsho again. The crazy thing is I had been betting Varsho like home run and never I just like never got it. And then of course I don't bet it like yesterday and he does it. So yeah, I have been betting his total bases though. They've been okay. But yeah, I was looking at Gosman like under like outs, under strikeouts. That's just how I envision the game flow going. So those are the few. Those are a few that I'm looking at. Gosman's outs, Yamamoto outs over, Yamamoto strikeouts, and Freddie Freeman. This is my top 4.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the guy that I said before has good numbers against Gausman. I'll go with Betts for this one. I'll go for the over 1.5 HRR. Overall, solid. We know hitter, future Hall of Famer, and he's been good lately. He has had 2 HRR in 3 straight. Said before, his numbers against Gausman are quite good. 16 for 51, 3 home runs, 1 double, 8 RBIs, 5 walks. And we also know that he's batting right after Ohtani. So after Ohtani had a home run in game 1, I know it was garbage time, but still, if they pitch around Ohtani, suddenly there's a guy on base. So that does provide some protection to Betts. I do think you're looking at Betts, who has a pretty solid matchup here against Gausman, head-to-head wise, and we know he's been in the World Series before, as a lot of the Dodgers players have. But I do think Betts is worth something. The over 1.5 HRR is minus 125. I'll go for that as my first prop. Any other guys you want to target?
No, I think we pretty much hit them all.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I want to go for Gausman under outs at 16.5.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I want to, because I think he might go relatively well. But we have seen him get pulled mid-inning quite frequently so far this postseason. I was kind of hoping it'd be 17.5, honestly. But 17.5 is not available. 16.5, the under is minus 122. So far this postseason, he's at exactly 17 in every start so far. So that number feels right to me. I'll pass on that. If I was going to go for a Blue Jays guy just based on hit rate and based on form, I know it's going to be involving Yamamoto fades a little bit, but I don't mind Clement over 1.5 HRR, who's been great so far this postseason. Plus 142 for the HRR for Clement. He has gone over in 6 of the last 7 games. He had 3 HRR in game 1, had a nice RBI single involved as well. And in the head-to-head, he has had 3+ HRR in 3 straight against the Dodgers. So that's an option too. Don't mind Clement having a solid game. If you want to go for Clement single, that's a plus 110. He has gone over that as well in 6 of the last 7. But I like Clement this entire series as a great contact hitter. I like the over 1.5 HRR at plus 142. That's a great price, just simply put, for a guy who's been rolling the entire postseason. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for our thoughts for Game 2. Time to get into the best bets for the show. Before we get into the best bets for Game 2, a reminder they're brought to you by our sponsor, Arnold Fantasy. Play Fast Pick'em. Chance 500 times your entry, pick higher or lower on your favorite player stats. And a reminder, you can also mix and match your sports. You can use football with even soccer, with baseball, with basketball, with hockey, you name it. But also check out the new offer for the customers. Play just $5, get $100 bonus funds. Use promo code MLB SGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm, the crocheting college football, NFL with picks and props. Give away cash prize every week for tracking your bets in the app. Track 5 bets with the same type of model that you build, and you can win $1K. And a reminder, we have a nice promo code discount with the Rhythm. Use code SGPN25. We're now on the app for quarter first month. That Rhythm, once again, promo code SGPN25 for a quarter first month. Rhythm, promo code SGPN25. Welcome back, everyone, to the MLB Gambling Podcast. Finished going through our thoughts for Game 2. Time to move on into our best bets. Lonte, what's going to be your best bet for Game 2 of the World Series?
Yeah, I don't really like the I don't want to lay the 140. So what I'll do is I think Yamamoto to get a win at plus 145 is a really good value. He's got 3 wins this postseason. I think that he'll pitch well. I mean, that's what I'm banking my handicap on. And I think the offense will be there for him. So Yamamoto plus 145 instead of landing 140 just for him to get the win. And I think it's kind of correlated. If he goes well and we talked about the innings like threshold that we think that he should meet, which should be between like 18 and 21. If he goes that far, I think the Dodgers win. So I think that's correlated. So plus 145, Yamamoto to record the win.
Yeah, I think my best bet's going to actually be on the first 5 under in this game at 4. A 4 is a push once again. I know you're not rooting for the push, but it is good to have some insurance in your back pocket. We think Yamamoto goes well. We know that he's an elite pitcher. We think he'll respond to the adversity. Gausman's been very consistent, and he's been solid so far. And we've seen the Dodgers offense not do much recently. I actually want to read off the Dodgers offensive showings lately. So the Dodgers, we saw get 3 home runs from Ohtani. Even with that, they only scored 5 runs. Scored 3 runs in game 4. They had 5 runs in game 2 and 2 runs in game 1, 2 runs against the Phillies in the last game of the series there, 2 runs in the game prior. The offense has really not been that good. And I do think it's worth mentioning that the Dodgers have scored less than 4 runs in 4 of the last 6 postseason games. And one of them that they did not was Ohtani having the best game arguably of all time in postseason history, where he was the only guy to show up for that team the entire game. So a lot of the offense hasn't shown up for the last couple weeks. And I do think that Gausman can go well enough to get through 5 relatively unscathed. Think that Yamamoto will pitch well too. So I'll go with the first 5 under 4 as my best bet at -110 for this game. Anyway, moving on to the home run picks for this game. A reminder, Lonte, if you want to, you can go bold and pick no home run in the game. That is an option. You can choose none of the above. That is available. But I'll ask you, what's going to be your home run pick for game 2?
Yeah, we talked about the guy earlier who I think will have a big game. I'm going Freddie Freeman. I think Freddie Freeman will have a big game, and I think that'll include a home run. His price, let me look and make sure what his price is. I thought it changed, but it didn't. His price is plus 475.
I see 525.
Oh, that's what I was looking at. Bet 365, but
yeah,
I love that. Anything 4+, I think is a go.
Yeah, so I can get behind that too at 525. I'm going to go with another lefty, though. It's a guy that has good numbers against Gausman and a guy that I do think has a lot of power. He has a couple of big World Series home runs, most notably that 18-inning home run against the Red Sox years ago. Give me Muncy. Same exact price, 525. Good numbers against Gausman, 3 home runs a lifetime, and I do think that, especially in this stadium, I think lefties could have a pretty solid opportunity to do some damage if any pitches get left over the middle. But Muncy's been good lifetime against Gausman. He's got power. He's been able to hit some big home runs before. I think he'll show up in the game the Dodgers need him to, courtesy of the power swing. Give me Muncy home run at plus 525 as my home run pick for game 2. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for the show. Lonte, one game, we took about 40 minutes, and we did a good job stalling throughout the entire episode.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, there was. Anything else you want to mention before we end the show?
Nah, but I think we go. Back to LA, tied 1-1. So yeah, I think we're in for a long series.
Yeah, there we go. A reminder though for Game 3, the plan is to have a 3-person episode with Lonte, Dylan, and I. That will be Sunday, either afternoon or night. So we will be back tomorrow for an episode, even though there is no game on Sunday. So you have a day off on Sunday, of course, for travel. World Series Game 3 resumes on Monday. But we'll be back tomorrow to break down that game with Lonte, Dylan, and I. Anyway, it's going to wrap it up for the show. A reminder, hit the like, subscribe to the MLB Gambling Podcast. Also check out the podcast on Spotify. And don't forget to leave a rating and a review. Find me on Twitter, RH Radio. Find him on Twitter at XLonteXX. Till next time, good luck to all of you and all of your bets. Bye, everyone.